From Chrysler Arena to courts around the world, they wore the maize and blue, and now they're bringing you the game, inside and out. Hail Media presents Nolan and Hobbs, the Women's Hoop Home Court podcast, hosted by Maddie Nolan and Jordan Hobbs.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Nolan and Hobbs show with me, Maddie Nolan, and my co-host Jordan Hobbs.
Today, we are going to be giving you a little bit of an overview of the Wolverines season the past week and the upcoming week. They played Detroit Mercy, and they also have Central Michigan upcoming as well as Purdue.
Yes, we're really excited. Another win for the Wolverines against Detroit Mercy, 102-53. These scores continue to be insane, but we're also really excited for not only the Central Michigan game, of course, but for Big Ten play to start. We're going to share kind of what else is going on throughout the Big Ten with the other teams. Really strong conference this year, per usual. I feel like we're kind of used to seeing women's basketball Big Ten have 5 or 6 people in the top 25, so no different this year.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with the addition last year of the West Coast schools, it's just made the Big Ten even stronger. And we see them in the top 25 this year as well. So it's going to be a fun next couple of months with Big Ten play starting. It starts this weekend, actually, the first games, which we'll get into. But first, Detroit Mercy game, Maddie, what are some of the biggest things that you saw?
Bench production again. I think no one in the starting 5 played over 26 minutes. That's huge, to have the trust and the confidence that you can play multiple people 20 minutes or close to 20 minutes off the bench. You have Teala again coming out strong, efficient. She had a double-double, 14 points, 6 of 7 from the field, 10 rebounds, just, continuing off the MVP from the Syracuse game. I think that was my biggest takeaway, the bench just continuing to add depth for Michigan this season.
Definitely. I love how well balanced Michigan looked in this game. 5 players hitting double digits, with a lot of them creeping up there, 8 to 9 points from numerous other players. Great point on Teala. It seems like her confidence is just continuing to rise. And I think they're really going to need her. Like, we have mentioned the Big Ten already today. And once you get into Big Ten play, you're playing 2 to 3 games a week against really strong competition every single day. You need a deep bench to do well in this conference and to do well in the tournament later on. So it's exciting to see how well Michigan has done on that front so far.
What were your takeaways from the Detroit Mercy game, Jordan?
I think, like I mentioned, well-balanced effort by everybody, but also the rebounding front. They rebounded Detroit Mercy by 30. I think we've seen that a lot this year, just how tenacious they are on the rebounding front. And they're just getting offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds. They had 25 offensive rebounds in this game, which is actually insane. Like, they shot 49% from the field, but half of those misses, they're getting their rebounds and putting it back up. So if they can continue doing that, even if it's not to that extent, if they can continue having that mindset, it's going to be really good for them.
That's a great point. I think, honestly, the first couple games, rebounding was the biggest weakness, in my opinion, for Michigan, especially. Like, you have Ashley as a true 5, but are really playing 4 guards most of the time. So I was a little worried going into the season how that would play out. And I'm also honestly really interested to see how it plays out in the Big Ten, where there are some larger teams. You have Lauren Betts, obviously, but other really good post presence. So it's nice to see against some of these mid-major teams that they are dominating the glass, and I hope that continues throughout the year.
Yeah, and I will say it is easy to play down to your competition too. And I love that this entire year Michigan has put pedal to the metal and completely run teams out of the gym that they're supposed to. But I mean, a lot of times you'll beat these teams by 20, 30 and call it a day, but they're going above and beyond, and they're playing as hard as they can every single second that they're on the court.
That's a great point. I think it goes back to what we discussed during the UConn game, the maturity, the locked-inness, the locked-in portion of the team, they're ready to go. It's continuation of what we were saying before, the bench being able to come in. Sometimes when you're up 20-30, you take out the starters, and there can be a drop-off. That's not the case this year with Michigan.
100%. It's going to be fun to watch. So this week they have Central Michigan and then Purdue this coming weekend. Central Michigan is on Thursday. What are you looking for in that game? What's a little preview you got of CMU?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we were there, CMU, we were always kind of like, this is going to be a really good game. They've had some teams in the past. Shout out to our past GA, Raina Frost.
Yes.
Have to give her a shout out. Part of the Sweet 16 team. She's actually in the CMU Hall of Fame. But we had some battles with them while we were there. They're having a solid season. They're 5-1 so far. They actually just beat Purdue by 2. So Michigan's opponent on Sunday, I believe. So, they're doing good on that. But one thing I want to note for Michigan is that they average 19.3 turnovers. Central Michigan does. So, as a Michigan team that's been turning people over a lot, that likes to do that press, whose half-court defense is even really efficient, I'm looking to see that probably that turnover rate go up if they're already doing that against maybe teams not as aggressive on defense as Michigan.
100%. And it's funny you mentioned Raina. I just played a girl who graduated from CMU around Raina's time. I played her yesterday, so she was really good and really strong. So I was like, dang, CMU's got people coming out of the alumni like crazy. But no, they are a really strong team. I remember my freshman year, your junior year, we went to Central Michigan. Coach Arrigo was a little freaked out that game. I remember, she was really not like worried, but she was putting more emphasis on them than we had seen prior to that. So I think they are a team consistently year after year, are a really strong mid-major team. They do have two guards that are a guard and a forward that are averaging high double digits, 17 and 13 points. And they do have a common opponent in Notre Dame. As you know, Michigan blew Notre Dame out 30 points. Notre Dame did beat Central Michigan by 30. So I'm sure a lot of the film work leading up to the Central Michigan game will be of their game against Notre Dame. So that kind of just gives you a clue as to where Central Michigan is standing based on their prior matchups.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I also think the game of basketball is so interesting. You could have a team, beat someone by 30. We beat that team by 30, and it could be a close game between Michigan and Central Michigan, purely matchup, who's hitting shots that day, who's not hitting shots that day. So I think that's always the fun part of basketball. I remember playing AAU, and I'd be watching a game. I'm like, oh, we just beat this team by 20, and they're losing by 20 to this other team. Like, we'll be fine. And you come in, and they end up just stuff like that. And I think that's what makes basketball so fun. But having a common opponent is really helpful because you get to see how they did against their defense or offense and how that compares to what you did. So that's a great point, Jordan.
Yeah, I think as long as Michigan keeps doing what they're doing, like you mentioned, keep playing a fast tempo, turning Central Michigan over, they're going to be fine. And then they can move on to Purdue, their first Big Ten opponent, which I can't believe that they're in Big Ten play already. I feel like we just started season and they were just playing Harvard and Canisius, and now they're already coming up on their first Big Ten opponent, and soon enough it's only going to be Big Ten, no non-conference anymore, which is crazy to me. But
I just think the season is so interesting because it goes by so fast yet so slow at some points of the year. And I think for us being watching from the outside right now, it's definitely going by so fast. So like you said, first Big Ten opponent this weekend. Really excited to see, how they match up. Obviously, they've played UConn, they've played Syracuse, even Harvard I would consider one of their better opponents. But, the Big Ten is the Big Ten for a reason. And, they have a good competition with Purdue. They're 4-3. Purdue is. They have losses to Purdue, Fort Wayne, Kentucky, and Central Michigan, like we said. They did have 6 kids transfer out and 6 people transfer in, so they have a lot of change. I think they're probably still finding their identity this year. 2 of their big transfers out were Rashonda Jones. She actually went to Michigan State. She started 17 games, averaged almost 10 points a game, almost a steal a game. And they also lost Sophie Swanson. She went to Virginia Tech, also averaged about 9 points a game, was a really good shooter. But, and then they bring in a couple kids. Actually, one of my AAU teammates, Madison Layden, and then it's Layden's dash Zay now because she got married. She actually put her name into the transfer portal her senior year, took it out, decided to retire from basketball, decided last year that retiring from basketball was not for her, and is now back at Purdue for her 5th year. She's one of their 4 top scorers. She's averaging around 9 points a game, but I played AAU with her. Like I said, great point guard, great vision, can shoot the crap out of the ball. So it's really interesting, that situation. I'll be interested to watch them play and see how she's doing.
Personally, I cannot imagine taking a year off of basketball and returning to a college athletic program at the Big Ten level. Like,
No,
I
absolutely
don't know
not.
how. So props to her. That is so impressive.
Props to her.
Yeah, but like we've mentioned, Purdue has some really strong weapons. They did lose a few in the portal, and so I'm sure this first month has been figuring themselves out, trying to work out some of the kinks that, they lost a lot of their production last year, and with Madison Layden Zay coming back after a year, you're getting used to her back on the court. So I am interested to see how they come into December. They've lost some games to mid-majors, one of them being Central Michigan. So right now, I'm sure the Big Ten isn't really expecting them to be at the top of the list. But that's what's so fun about the Big Ten is you cannot take a night off. I mean, Maddie and I know this personally, traveling to Wisconsin and these opponents that you might think they're not ranked in the top 10 in the Big Ten. And then if you're not showing up with the intensity that you need to, it's going to bite you in the butt. So Michigan needs to come with a lot of intensity, a lot of fuel, and just keep doing what they've been doing.
I said Jordan because she gave me PTSD from the Wisconsin game my senior year, Jordan's sophomore year. That was horrible, and I still have nightmares about it, but it just proves the point of, like, you have to be ready for everyone. And Purdue, like I said, has 6 transfers coming in. Only one from the Power 4 from Arkansas, averaged 10 points a game there, doing about the same at Purdue, but was shooting 40% from 3. At Arkansas is shooting about 30% from 3 right now, Kiki Smith. But half of her shots per game are threes. So I'm looking, obviously they have confidence in her to shoot the 3, to shoot it at a high level. I'm sure that's why she was recruited to Purdue. So I'm looking to see maybe her percentage probably rise throughout the year. She gets more comfortable in her role, and it's figuring out her role in Purdue. And then Purdue's leading scorer is also actually a transfer. She played her freshman year at DePaul and then played the last 2 seasons at St. John's. Tara Day, she's averaging 11 points per game, 7 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field. So another post challenge for Ashley. Based on her previous games, the UConn game against Sarah Williams, I thought she held her own really well. She had a couple blocks, as we saw. So I'm looking for that post matchup to be really interesting.
To round out Purdue's strong team, they have a freshman Karsh who is a shooter. She's averaging 9.9 points per game and shooting 37% from 3, while over half of her shots are from 3. And as a post player, Maddie mentioned they have a strong inside presence. It's always good to have people that can space the floor, let you work a little bit inside, but also knowing that if the defense does collapse, you have someone to kick it out to and hopefully make that shot. But the Wolverines kick off Big Ten play on Sunday at home. Hopefully they can build some momentum heading into Big Ten. It's always nice to get that first early one in the win column. So we're going to be excited to watch that game.
100%. And I want to get your thoughts on this, Jordan. As we said, Purdue has 4 players averaging between 9 and 11 points per game. I sometimes almost think it's harder to play against a team that has threats like that versus maybe a team that has two scorers averaging 20 or 15, just because now there's more on the scouting report. There's more threats on the floor instead of your focus being stopping one person. It's stopping multiple and kind of knowing their strengths and weaknesses. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree completely. I think that's what makes Michigan so dangerous is anybody can
Mhm.
go off on any certain night, and I think that's what's going to make Purdue dangerous in the Big Ten. For any team, you want 1 through 4 at least, 1 to 4 players to be really strong offensively, and Purdue has that, and I think that's a niche that they can really use throughout the year. And it's just
Mhm.
so nice as a player too if you're having an off night, you know that that pressure isn't falling on you because you can look to the next person who is down the line who's averaging 10 points as well, and then the next one,
Yeah.
and then the next one. So I think it takes off a lot of pressure as a player when you might not be having the best game, but you can contribute in other ways, and you know that there's other people next to you that can score the ball just as well.
That's such a great point. The mental stress, you don't always have to come in feeling like you have the weight on your shoulders, that you can look to the left and to the right and know that, if you're having an off night, you're not hitting shots like you said, you have trust that someone else can maybe pick up the slack for you. That's a great point.
Yeah, and I feel like it's been shown on Michigan this year with even Detroit Mercy. Olivia and Sila had 10 and 9 respectively, but then you have Mila and Tayala in double figures and
Mhm.
scoring a lot. So I think on Michigan too, it can be anyone's night, and they pick each other up based on that.
Yeah, it's a great point. Something we continue to talk about. They have like 1 through 7, 1 through 8 is really strong. They have multiple people who
Yeah,
can come in and knock down shots when needed. So that's huge for them.
yeah. So Big Ten play kicking off this weekend. We have matchups throughout the conference, but we want to highlight how strong the Big Ten is. So, Maddie, why don't you just kick us off with some of the best teams that we got?
Yeah, as we talked about a little bit earlier, the Big Ten is strong as ever. 8 teams in the top 25. There's only 18 teams in the Big only. That's a lot. There's 18 teams in the Big Ten now, but 8 of them are ranked. Leading them off, number 4, UCLA. I actually just watched them play Tennessee last night. They look good. Talk about a deep team.
Yeah.
Lauren Betts, I think, had less than 10 points, but they have Hawkes who had 29. Charlize Ledger-Walker had 11 or 12 assists. Kiki Rice played well. Dugalich is playing out of her mind right now recently. She's just solid, knocking down threes. Neepkins is
Yeah.
so fun to watch. I've honestly really enjoyed watching UCLA this year. They're insane on offense because, like I said, they have so many weapons. But honestly, last night, their defense, I was so impressed. Knowing Tennessee, they want to run. They score a lot off of their press, but they're so athletic. They do the platooning system, the 5 in, the 5 out. I was really intrigued to see how UCLA would do against a super athletic team, considering they had just lost against Texas, another really good athletic defensive team, and they showed out. They forced a lot of turnovers and ended up winning that Tennessee game by 20, and it was a dominant statement win. And like we talked about, being able to go from a close loss to a good team to winning against a ranked team or another Power 5 opponent, similar to the Michigan UConn to Michigan Syracuse. It's a lot of maturity. It takes a lot of focus, and that's what UCLA just did.
Yeah. And I love how Corey Close has coached that team for years. They always
Mhm.
play like such a team, just so together.
Mhm.
They know where each other's at on the court, and they're just so fun to watch, like you mentioned. But at number 6, we got Michigan. We've talked in depth about Michigan, so we can skip over them a little bit. At number 7, we have Maryland. So we have 3
Mhm.
Big Ten teams in the top 10, which is wild to me. And it's
Yeah.
probably going to be more as the season continues. We have Iowa at 12. So Maryland has a few transfers. Some of their biggest, they have Alucci, who is a guard from Duke, and then a familiar face in the Big Ten, Yarden Garzone from Indiana. Great shooter. I think Maryland also just has a lot of depth. They've been in some close games thus far where maybe people weren't expecting them to be as close. So I think they are still trying to figure themselves out a little bit as well. Unfortunately for Michigan, they play them at the end of the season. So it's going to be a dogfight when they do end up playing. But Maryland is looking scary.
Yeah, Maryland is always solid. Coach Freeze, I'm always so impressed what she does with her teams, especially when they have so many transfers in. I think it was a couple years ago they had 4 or 5 transfers and they were one of the top teams in the Big Ten. I mean, they're consistently one of the top teams in the Big Ten. So her ability to adapt and figure out a way to put these transfers into her system and make them successful, I've always been so impressed with that. So, Maryland, like I said, always a contender in the Big Ten, always very well coached. Then we have number 12, Iowa. We're used to seeing them at the top, but without Caitlin Clark and Coach Lisa Bluter retiring, obviously, Coach Jensen has done a great job, retaining talent and continuing their push to be one of the best teams. Following them, number 6, I've actually got to watch them a couple times this season. Freshman standout Jazzy Davidson averaging 16 points a game, 6.7 rebounds, 4 assists a game, not looking. There's definitely some freshman moments, but I mean, that is not a freshman stat line by any means. She's looking like Olivia Olson and Silas Swords from their freshman year, honestly, and doing a great job of leading that team. USC has had a tough schedule so far. They just played NC State. They just lost to Notre Dame on a buzzer beater by Hannah Hidalgo at Notre Dame. That was a really fun game to watch. In addition to Jazzy Davidson, they have another transfer, Cara Dunn. She was so fun to watch in the Notre Dame game, knocking down threes. She hit a fadeaway post shot. Just another strong presence. And they also have London Jones, transfer from UCLA. So, another in-conference transfer, and a rival transfer at that, which was interesting. But, we got to see her last year knock down threes and just be aggressive on the defensive end, and she's continuing that for USC this year.
Yeah, I love what USC has done thus far. Without Juju, you
Without
can
Juju.
just kind of put this season aside almost and just be like, well, we'll try to do our best. No, that is the exact opposite of what they're doing. They are taking what they have and making the most out of it. Jazzy has been phenomenal so far. Kennedy Smith has to be one of the best defenders in the country. I love
Yeah.
how hard she plays on both sides of the court. She is so strong. So offensively, she kind of reminds me of like an Olivia Olson where she can post up, but she's also a great shooter. She's super
Yeah.
versatile and then is guarding the other team's point guard and pressing full court. And it's an absolute menace on the defensive end. And I think that can take them really far if they can continue putting defensive masterclasses to work. And then at 20, we have Michigan State. They're returning, I think, their best player right now, Grace Van Slooten, as a power forward. She is very versatile. She doesn't shoot many threes, but she has a really good pull-up game, good mid-range game, but is also just really strong around the rim. She's been putting up great numbers this year. So Michigan State is going to be really good as well.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching those 2 games against you guys, Michigan State last year, and just the pace that they play with. And they're similar, going to be pressing a lot. They like to run and gun, and, so that's always a fun matchup no matter the rankings for Michigan, the rivalry, as we've seen over the years. So, yeah, for them to be ranked is obviously makes it even more fun. Following them closely, 21, we have Washington, and then 23, Ohio State got into the rankings this week.
Yeah, and we mentioned USC. USC's first Big Ten game is Washington this weekend on Sunday, I believe. So that's probably the most exciting game. No, sorry. So we mentioned USC and Washington. They actually play this weekend on Sunday. That's the game that I'm most excited to see. We have 16 versus 21. It's the first real test that Washington has. They've kind of just been playing some mid-majors. So I am really excited to see how they match up against a really strong USC squad. One of Washington's best players, Ella Dean, has not played so far. She's been listed as day-to-day. So I think that's going to be key. If she can come back for this game, she is an incredible scorer, a really versatile guard. She can make some crazy shots, like from 3, some circus shots. So if they can have her back, I think it is looking good for Washington and will be a really competitive game no matter what. But I'm really excited for that game.
In addition, Washington has a USC transfer, and Howell. She was really impressive as a freshman last year at USC and is continuing to do well at Washington. So I always like to keep an eye on the transfers playing their old teams and see how that goes. So in addition to it being a ranked matchup, there's that to keep an eye out for.
There always seems to be like some vengeance when transfers, like Janiah Barker dropped 25 against
Yeah.
UCLA and played really well, and then she didn't hug Corey Close, so that was some drama. But I do think players who transfer and then play their previous school play with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder and almost always show out a little bit more than normal. So that is a great point. How might go off that game.
Yeah, just something to keep an eye out for sure. As always, we are in for a really fun Big Ten season. As we said, 8 teams ranked in the top 25, so keep an eye on that throughout the year. Sure, there will be a lot of movement on that front, and make sure you turn into the Michigan-Purdue game. It's at noon, also showing on BTN. Should be a fun weekend.
Welcome to a new segment that I'm so excited about.
So
KBA
excited.
Fit Check. We are going to be talking and ranking some of KBA's fits that she has had during games so far this season. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it.
So, starting out, first game, Canisius, pretty basic here. We got the little Michigan quarter zip, the khakis. I like the khakis. They're not cargos. I think they're really cute. They're just simple and matching with the staff. And then, of course, always rocking the J's. I think that just like completes the fit, actually elevates the fit, honestly.
Shoes elevate the game. These are Michigan Player Edition Jordan 1s. So only the staff and men's basketball and women's basketball and football get these shoes. So probably 250 to 300 are made. They do go, well, you're not really supposed to sell them, but once you graduate, you can sell them, and they go for a pretty penny.
They do.
So I can appreciate these ones specifically just because they are specially made for Michigan athletic department people. Okay, Harvard game. We got the maize version of the quarter zip and some black joggers, and it looks like some Jordan 4s, little white maize and black action on the shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Again, like typical Coach-Arico fit, nothing too special. I feel like she doesn't go like hard on her outfits unless it's like a really big game. Especially if it's on a primetime network, she's gonna step out a little bit. She's gonna add a little flair to her outfit. So in these early games, I feel like they're normally pretty mellow.
Yeah, and, matching with the staff, it's really cute. I love the Jordans, as we say, they always take the fit up a notch. Just cute, comfy vibes. We said, like, since COVID, a lot of coaching staffs have gone from the really elevated business casual fits back to, like, comfy, casual sportswear, and I kinda like the fact that you could do either. Like we said, we see Coach Rico sometimes really dressed up. Other games, it's just, like, calm, cool, and casual, and I feel like this is the perfect outfit. Like, could you imagine coaching in the sideline in heels, how they all used to do that, like, running up and down,
No.
being angry, like, yelling at the refs in heels? Because I could not. I'd have blisters for days. So I'm all for this sports casual vibe. All right, so the next game, we have Notre Dame on television, and Jordan and I have talked to each other so much about these sweaters. We are obsessed with these sweaters. They're from Jordan Fern, right? The Fern
Fern.
boutique. And the Michigan in the cursive, it's chef's kiss. It's perfect. I've told Coach Rico, like, I literally DM'd her on Instagram. I was like, she put a picture of them on her Instagram story, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are so cute. So I'm glad she pulled them out for the primetime Notre Dame game. Like I said, love the sweater. Michigan in the maize, in cursive, back with the casual khakis, but I really like how they look. And then, rocking the Nikes this time.
Definitely. This sweater made me go on Fern's website and look at their other sweaters.
Yeah.
This is one of a ton that are very cute. If I still went to Michigan, I would be buying probably 5 sweaters, and I still want them. Even as an alum, I don't even go there, and I really want them. But
100%.
nonetheless, her shoes, I have to point them out because they're Travis Scott 1 lows. And
Okay,
for
Jordan.
people who don't know sneakers, Travis Scott Jordans are like the holy grail. And they go for a pretty penny. These are Coach Rico's. I think they're her favorite shoes. She got them last year, and she really saves them for special occasions. You'll see throughout the year, the bigger games, she's wearing these Travis Scott Jordan 1s on the big games.
Wow, that's really good insight, Jordan. I would have never known that. So thank you for sharing. That's so
Of
good to
course,
know.
I'm doing the dirty investigative work, you know? Next game, we got Binghamton. Again, staff is matching with the blue on top. Coach Rico
Mhm.
decides to give it a little spice with the maize pants. And it looks
Okay.
like she's just got some basic Jordan 1 lows. Again, she's going to step out a little bit more for the bigger games. This is another just calm, casual fit. She's trying to be comfy, but also look cute while doing it.
Period. And I have to say, normally, back in my day at least, the Maze pants were usually for big games. Like, I remember she'd be like, I have my lucky Maze pants on. Like, because I think she wore them. We'll have to fact check this because I could be wrong. But I think she wore the Maze pants when we went to our first Sweet 16 against the Tennessee. And so I just remember every game after that, we'd be like, oh, the Maze pants are making an appearance, you know. So I'm really impressed that she pulled them out. And obviously it was a little special occasion, home game, you know, after beating Notre Dame, maybe, was excited about that. Uh, yeah, I like the Maze pants. I think they're always like a fun little pop. All right, then we're going on to the Yukon game. So like we said, Jordan, good call. She has the Travis Scott ones on, big game. She she has a hoodie on and then a blazer. So I don't know if how many of our fans follow the WNBA, but Becky Hammond was big fan of this look throughout the series, the finals especially. So KBA may be pulling some inspo from her. But we have the retro Wolverine on her sweatshirt, which is actually one of my favorites. I have a sweatshirt with the retro Wolverine, and I just love whenever it makes an appearance. But then adding it with the blazer, she's got the little gold buttons on, you know, a little like business casual with the khakis again. And then like we said with the Travis Scott Jordan ones, just kind of tying it all together.
I do like this fit. I love this blazer on her. It,
Uh,
like, is pretty form fitting. Like, she looks great in it. I love the gold buttons. Yeah,
yeah, some
this is a good
details.
one. I think the Notre Dame one is a little bit above this just because I love that sweater, but
Yeah.
I do like this fit.
Next, we have the Syracuse game. KBA rocking the maize version of the sweatshirt from the Notre Dame game, the one that Jordan and I love. So, like we talked about, lots of options from Fern as we're seeing here. I also need to shout out before the season, I'm pretty sure KBA got a haircut, and I just think it looks really good and is helping like elevate the outfits. So shout out KBA on the haircut as well. But we see here May sweater, Michigan in the cursive again. Then she has the blue pants, and then again Syracuse was a big game, rocking the Travis Scott ones, and just another chef's kiss. I think because I love the sweater so much, and I know Jordan, you feel the same, that these just like make it 100 out of 10.
I completely am on board with that thought. I need to just create this theory that if it's a primetime game,
Mhm.
then she's wearing the Travis Scott ones, and I just wanna see if that theory
Okay.
plays out throughout the year. Like, the Purdue game is at noon, so I wouldn't really consider that, like, prime time even though it's on BTN,
No.
but it needs to be at, like, 6 o'clock, 5 to si
Mhm.
honestly, from 5 to 8 o'clock, and
Yeah.
on a network, and then I think she's wearing them. I don't know if that's her
You
thought
know
process
what?
behind it, but
And you know what? We're gonna keep doing this series throughout the season, of course, so we'll keep going back to that and see if your theory plays out. I really like those shoes.
yeah, they're nice. And our Fern Boutique sweater count is at 2 already, which is pretty high. So
That is pretty
either
high.
we're looking for reappearances from them or new sweaters, and I'm excited to see what else she brings.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning into our first ever KBA Fit Check. We obviously had so much fun doing this. I think KBA has a great time like picking out her outfits. I'm sure it's like a fun little side quest in addition to the game, of course, but just like a fun new segment for us. So keep an eye out on KBA's fits. We'll obviously still be highlighting them, but we hope you guys enjoyed.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Nolan and Hobbs podcast. Again, make sure to watch our Michigan Wolverines as they take on Central Michigan this week, as well as Purdue on Sunday. I also want to give a huge shout out to Hillmon, who just won the 3x3 America with Team USA. Huge accomplishment for her. It's not her first gold medal, and I'm sure it will not be her last. She's absolutely killing it, so shout out to her.
And if you guys have any questions that you want us to answer, any type of content that you want to see, please leave a comment below. I saw last week someone ask if I like the name Maddie Nylon, the nickname Maddie Nylon. I love that nickname. I think it's so cool. Even when I went to Colorado, people were asking me if I have a nickname, and I was like, yeah, it's Maddie Nylon. So it stayed with me all throughout college, and I absolutely love it. So any questions, please share them in the comments below. We're more than happy to answer. And as always, go blue.
If you like this kind of content, please like, share, follow, and subscribe. And as always, go blue.